Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel. We are back with the tips again. A shocking round of tipping it was for me last round. I got 2 out of 7. Yeah, not ideal at all. The 2 I got correct were the Bulldogs and also Geelong. Geelong tried their hardest to stuff that one up. They were down by 4 or 5 goals at half time. I had them tipped, I had them as my gauntlet tip. Luckily I did get the job done. But yeah, other than that, it was a pretty wacky round of tipping. Not much went right. Some people, I imagine, probably would have gotten none right because the Bulldogs, they weren't really favourites to win that game. And, actually no, pretty much everyone would have tipped Geelong. So yeah, a very difficult round of tipping. Hopefully round 13 is a little bit better. So we kick things off on Thursday night, Adelaide taking on Richmond. Adelaide's season is pretty much done now. After that loss to Hawthorn, you know, the chances of them making finals from here are pretty slim. That being said, they should do a number on the Tigers because Richmond right now, they have one of the most cursed injury lists I've ever seen. It's pretty much on par with what West Coast injury list was like in 2022 and 2023. And worst of all, it's a lot of their younger players, like Mickelty Vilafau just did his ACL. He was like actually looking like a really good player. Potentially, he was going to be the key forward, that number one key forward going forward for the Tigers. He was doing a pretty good job in Tom Lynch's absence, but he's out for the season now. So yeah, it's just really dire stuff for Richmond. They've been putting in a good effort the last few weeks, but they haven't been rewarded with any wins, and the injury list continues to grow. I think that Adelaide at home should do a number on them here. We'll go Adelaide by 58 points. The Western Bulldogs taking on Brisbane here. The Bulldogs back in a bit of form, won their last few now, and against some pretty decent opposition. Their last 2 wins have come against GWS and Collingwood. So I feel that they should be able to beat Brisbane in this game because the Lions, well, they aren't going so great. They too are another team with a bit of an injury crisis. Not quite on the level of Richmond, but you'd think they're probably down and out of the finals race at least. Which is weird because pretty much everyone would have tipped them to be back in contention again this year. I believe I tipped them to win the premiership this year, so I'm going to be a fair bit off with that tip. And I think that the Dogs, now that they've found themselves in a bit of good form, they should get the job done at home here. I'll tip them by 17 points. Hawthorn versus GWS. This is going to be an interesting game. Hawthorn have won now 4 of their last 5 games, and that one loss was by a single point to Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. So they are looking really good right now. Their rebuild is absolutely on track. And, you know, there's actually a chance that they might play finals this year. A slim chance, albeit. But I don't think anyone would have predicted that at the start of the year. So, I even though this one is in Launceston, there is a chance, but I think their streak's probably I think their good form's probably going to come to an end sooner or later. I did say that last week, and they rolled over Adelaide. Launceston is very much, they do very much have an advantage playing at that ground over GWS. But I think that the Giants, it's really hard to tip pretty much every team in and about the hunt for the top 8. I think I will tip the Giants in this one, but it should be a close game, and in fact, I'll tip it to be a 4-point margin. GWS get it done in a thriller. West Coast taking on North Melbourne in Perth. The Eagles are going to be without their young star Harley Reid. He's suspended. He's going to be out of contention for the Rising Star Award. That sling tackle on the player who's probably going to win the Rising Star Award now. in Darcy Wilson. They should get the job done against the Kangaroos. I mean, North Melbourne, a lot of people are saying they're probably not going to win a game at all this year. I think they will win a game at some point, at least one game. I think it's most likely that they probably end up with 2 wins, maybe 3 by the end of the year. But I think West Coast would want to respond after a disappointing last couple of games at home. Beat them at Optus Stadium last year. I think that North have gotten worse since then, and the Eagles have definitely gotten better. So they should get the job done comfortably here. I'll tip by 31 points. St Kilda taking on Gold Coast. Saints had their first win in the wild. Gold Coast, maybe they have finally proved themselves. Are they going to make finals this year? Well, if they win this game, I think the most likely answer to that is probably going to be yes. Obviously, they've had their struggles away from home this year, have not won a single away game. Against St Kilda, you'd think they probably get the job done. If they do lose this, then there is really something wrong something wrong happening on their plane trips, because the fact they have not won a single away game is kind of ridiculous. But I think they probably should get the job done in this one. I'll tip them by 22 points in a bit of a dour affair. But yeah, the Suns might actually be building up to something here. Sydney taking on Geelong. The Swans coming off the bye. Geelong got their first win in 5 matches, broke a bit of a losing streak. At the SCG, I think that until something goes drastically wrong, I'm probably just going to continue tipping Sydney at the moment. Rocking my Sydney jumper at the moment. And I'm happy because we are flying. Don't have too many injury concerns. Callum Mills is coming back soon. Luke Parker's still got to serve his 6-week suspension, although who knows if he's even going to be back in the side when that suspension's over. Hasn't played a game at all this year. We've pretty much got a full strength squad. Geelong weren't at all convincing last week. Meanwhile, I hope that the bye doesn't affect us too badly, because when you've got momentum like we do, sometimes you don't really want to have that bye because it can bring a bit of a halt to momentum. But I think we should get the job done in this one. I think we're comfortably a better team than Geelong right now, so I'll tip us by 21 points. Essendon taking on Carlton now in the King's Birthday Eve match. This was started last year. Obviously, both these teams are going pretty well right now, but perhaps most exciting of all, we are hopefully, touch wood, going to see the Mackay Bowl. It's finally happening. Ben Mackay is going to take on Harry Mackay. It should be a battle for the ages. They are both in ripping form this year, so it'll be an old-fashioned one-on-one contest between those two, hopefully. Should be a bit of brotherly love between the two. And should be a pretty good contest overall in this game. Essendon coming off a loss. I reckon they might start to dip a little bit. I'm going to tip the Blue Bags in this one. I thought they were really convincing last week. Against Port Adelaide, they look very good. I think that they are definitely building towards something this season. Essendon, have they overachieved a little bit? Potentially. Maybe not if they win this game. But we'll have to wait and see whether they really are a premiership contender this year. I'm going to tip Carlton in this one, though. And as for who wins the Mackay Bowl, I'll go Harry Mackay to kick 3 goals, and Ben Mackay to do a reasonable job, and it'll be a pretty even battle between those two. Final game in the round, Collingwood taking on Melbourne in the King's Birthday traditional matchup. The Pies have a whole stack of injuries right now, nearly on par with Richmond's injury list. Melbourne coming off a diabolical loss against Fremantle. I think that they just have to respond after that. 92 points, I don't think anyone saw that happening. Melbourne were favourites going into that game. It was really one of the most bizarre results of the season, I think. Maybe alongside that Richmond win over Sydney. I think it was, one of the most just shocking and bizarre results but I think they'll bounce back. And right now, with the injuries that the Pies have, I just can't see them beating too many top teams. So I think Melbourne, if they are still legitimate contenders for the flag this year, they should get the job done against Collingwood. And that'll bring us to the end of round 13. So at the end of round 13, the ladder looks like this. Still Sydney on top, Carlton up to second, push Essendon down to third, GWS also in the top 4, Port Adelaide, Gold Coast moving up the ladder, Geelong and Melbourne round out the top 8 here. Fremantle find themselves just outside the top 8 in 9th. Bulldogs, they've slipped down a little bit on 7 wins and 6 losses. It is very tight between these top 10 teams I've got here, and you can extend that to Collingwood. I reckon, yeah, these 11 teams are probably the 11 teams that are going to be fighting it out for the rest of the season to make up those top 8 spots. And then Adelaide in 12th have moved up a little bit because I tipped them to have a big win, but I think they're a fair bit behind the rest of the pack. Although they're, according to my tips, they're only half a game behind. Or actually no, because Collingwood have 2 draws. Never mind, they're a game and a half behind. So yeah, they're a bit behind the pack. Hawthorn, they could, if they win this week, potentially they could move up to around where Collingwood are, and they could be in the fight for the 8 as well, but I don't see that happening. Brisbane, then St Kilda, West Coast, Richmond and North Melbourne in the bottom 4. North still without a win. So that is this week's tips over and done with. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Comment down your tips in the comment section below. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.